Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
So maybe you are not a scared, incapable individual. Maybe you are a controlling individual. But it's not as bad as you think. So before you clutch your pearls, let's talk about it. Let's break it down. Stay tuned. Guys, what's going on, you beautiful people? Welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, and up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah, and of course, I'm bringing the tea to you guys. It's just been a lot that I've been, thinking on, processing, navigating, but also, I guess, keeping my ear on in terms of, a lot of the hang-ups that we have in life. I don't want to say they can be simplified, but sometimes they're not as trivial, right? And sometimes our pattern behaviors, or all the time, our pattern behaviors will give us clues and context in terms of what our biggest struggles are. There was something around the element of someone who is very controlling, right? Or someone who self-sabotages a lot. They're kind of one and the same. They're just on different spectrums, right? If you have a fear of abandonment, and it could be, a valid, legitimate fear because, maybe growing up you were literally abandoned, or someone kicked you out of the house, or, being ghosted. All of these factors can contribute to this fear of abandonment, okay? Now, let's carry that over, right? That one experience, we carry it over into our waking life and our adult lives and our adult relationships, or even our adult professional setting. If you are ran or riddled with this idea that eventually I'm going to be abandoned, and abandonment can also just look like rejection, right? If that is an undercurrent of how you move through life and how you function, then you might be a little bit controlling. And the reason I say that is you may, and this is kind of where the attachment styles start to come in, the anxious, the avoidant, all that good stuff. So if you are fearful of abandonment, how do you think you show up in your relationships? Okay. How do you think you show up in your relationships? Is there this demand, desire, or intensity of having to control the scenario? Someone always needs to communicate with you when you're ready to communicate. Even on the avoidance side, do you kind of check out and, decide what the relationship is going to be without communication with the other person, or just, checking the temperature of the dynamics, or even just kind of taking a self inventory, right? I was thinking about this, in my own pattern behavior, and just in terms of little stuff. Like, let's say the daily things I have to do. When you find yourself either overwhelmed or overstressed, what do you feel the most out of control with? What feels out of your control? And what do you do about it? So for me, when I am in high stress or I'm functioning in that space and I feel like a lot of things are not getting done, I clean, right? I clean regardless, but now I really clean and everything kind of becomes a task. And the reason why is because, well, I'm in control of this. I can clean up. I can make space. I can rearrange things. I can do that. Right? Control is not always this malicious thing. Control is just making sure that we have security in the outcome. Okay? So as we're having this conversation, don't necessarily think of control always as malice. And it doesn't excuse, possessive behavior or very unhealthy controlling behaviors where it becomes a detriment or a danger to another person. It's just information right now. Okay? If you listen to a person that says that they have a fear of abandonment and you observe how they move through life, you'll probably find a lot of self-sabotage in their pattern behavior. You'll find a lot of self-sabotage in their relationships. To be controlling or to have control of a situation or circumstance doesn't mean you are making healthy choices. It just means you're making choices that you feel that you are comfortable with and that you're in control of. So for example, if you have a pattern of, let's say, one-sided relationships, it could be romantic, it could be friendships, okay, you have people-pleasing tendencies, etc. At the end of the relationship, you will always find that the outcome is the same. They disappoint you, okay? And you may look at, well, how did they disappoint me? Well, it was very one-sided. The relationship was very one-sided. I was always the one giving. I was always showing up. I was doing things even when they didn't ask. I feel like I was taken advantage of. And you ask that person, okay, so what did you do about it? Well, nothing. Okay, why? Well, because I'm such a giver and I don't like giving up on people. Is it that you don't like giving up on people, or is it the reality that you want to keep people around, but also you want to control how people perceive you? Okay, if I'm always seen as inherently good, then I'll always be quote unquote liked or potentially have the possibility to be liked by others, even when they are doing shit to me that I do not like, right? A lot of times we might not even like the people we are trying to get validation from. We just like the idea of being liked by them. And the way we try to control that is by doing things to make them like us more. So going back to the abandonment aspect, if it's a fear of abandonment, let's add in self-sabotage, right? If I fear being abandoned, then the likelihood I'm going to continually create that in my dynamics, which means that I will align with people who I feel comfortable with, right? I align with people I feel comfortable with, and comfort is just familiarity. For right now, just see comfort as familiarity. What patterns do I know, right? If I have these relationships where someone is usually treating me poorly or taking advantage of me, I know that. I know how it works. Right? I know how I work. And it could be the same pattern in different people, right? A lot of times we don't really change until we actually make the choice to change. We just change the people. It's usually the same person in different bodies. And you'll know that. Just take a look at your historic relationships. Okay? You could even go back to family members, but just take a look and just ask yourself, what are the similarities here? If the outcome is the same, what have been the similarities between my behavior and also this other individual with the other people that came before them? Okay, if you have a fear of abandonment, you will either find reasons to reject yourself or you will find relationships that reinforce what you already think about yourself. And by design, you are in control of the outcome. A lot of times we say that we want these healthy friendships, we want these healthy romantic partnerships, we want these things, but the truth of the matter is a lot of times we are not ready for that, because those kinds of relationships and those kind of people will remove our ability to control, right? They remove our ability to control. They're not being possessive. They're not demanding control over us. It's a certain level of autonomy, right? That's there. And sometimes the healthiest people in our lives will hold up a mirror to our behavior just by being there, right? They're not necessarily doing anything to hurt us or to humiliate. It's just them being present means that we have to sit with the discomfort of how we function. And a lot of times, if a person is not giving you a reason, you will look for it. The reason why is because I need to control this outcome. I need to control how things end, right? The idea of me being in a healthy relationship does not make sense to my nervous system. So therefore, I have to find what aligns with it. Until you are willing to truly be uncomfortable, right? And I say uncomfortable within the context of, yeah, you may be disappointed in these relationships and someone keeps hurting you, but you keep going back, which means that you have the capacity to tolerate a lot of things that you say you don't want, right? Sometimes it is very intoxicating to exist in a relationship that constantly gives us a certain level of uncertainty and requires us to constantly try to figure it out. Okay? People are not puzzles to solve. You are not a detective unless you are, but keep your work and your home separate.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
You know, sometimes it's just great to say, sit down when it feels like life is out of sorts and just ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Like, how do I feel about myself? How do I feel about the outcome of what life has been for me? How secure do I feel? What are my relationships looking like? Do they align with what I say I want? What do I look like? Do I align with what I say that I desire and demand from other people? Okay. And that's the part we often skip over, because the idea of sitting with myself means that I have to be uncomfortable in a place of stillness. And when you're in a place of stillness, things kind of come in and out. They're allowed to hit you. I always say, like, sometimes these relationships that leave us in a fog that we are actively choosing, it's kind of like junk food, right? Think about when you're really hungry. What do you go for first? It's like the lowest hanging fruit, right? You reach for snacks. You reach for snacks. You reach for snacks. You start doom scrolling on social media. Like, you do something that is going to give you the opportunity to be satiated. And what happens after you do that? You're like, damn, I probably shouldn't have eaten that. I feel gross. I feel like I'm gaining weight. I feel like I'm out of shape. Or doom scrolling on social media. Damn, I didn't get what I wanted to get done. And now here we are. Right? In the moment, it takes care of this need, this very shallow and superficial need. But in the moment, you are recognizing, hey, what am I avoiding? But also, what am I trying to control in the process? There's this, I forget what it's called. I think it's called like sleep protest behavior. And I want you to pay attention to this. If you work a lot, right? If you have long days and you don't have any boundaries around how much you work, whether it's for yourself, whether it's in an office, whether it's for someone else, it doesn't matter. I want you to think about it. When you come home late at night, What's your sleep routine? What does it look like? And I want you to pay attention to, if you know you have to get up the next morning, are you intentionally staying up later when you know you have to go to sleep? I found myself doing it, and sometimes it's simply just sleep protest. Because if you feel like the rest of your day is out of your control and out of your permission, you have to gain some sense of control back. So what you will do is essentially hurt yourself, because you are now deciding, hey, we go to sleep when I say we go to sleep. And it's an attempt for us to kind of push back, right? But we're the only ones that are being compromised. This control thing is bigger than just, someone being very tactical in how they treat other people or stuff like that. Like it's fear-based a lot of times, and not even step into the space of like mental health disorders, but like someone who says that they're OCD or someone who's type A. There's a level of control there, but there's also a level of fear there. It's like the person who never allows other people to help them. Sometimes just pay attention, because it's not always just that they are controlling. A lot of times they may have been left to their own devices and they had to figure things out. They weren't able to rely on people. People may have said they would show up and they did not. So there's a lack of trust there, and there's a lack of ability to trust other people to do what they say they're going to do. So therefore I'll do it, because at least I know I'm in control of what the outcome is. It is really cool to think about, right? And I hope you can listen to this, and if it hits you in your stomach, it hits you in your heart, just kind of like lean in a little bit. Ask yourself, what a part of my life feels out of control? What do I want to have more control of? What do I want to have more confidence about? The only way to get more confident, especially in your relationships, is to stop engaging with people sooner who make you question your worth. And that's more of your responsibility than theirs, because people are going to be people outside of our influence. People are going to do what they do, because we are all comfortable operating in a certain dysfunction, right? So people are going to continue to do what they do before they change who they are, which means, what am I willing to do differently to get a different outcome? How uncomfortable am I willing to be to make some changes? Okay? And if you feel your life getting out of control, one thing I practice and I try to remind myself, clean one corner of the room. If it feels like too much in one day, ask yourself, well, what's important? What am I fearful of actually tackling? Why? Does it feel like too big of a project? Does it feel like too big of a process? Does it feel like too hard of a conversation? All right, start smaller. What can you actually be in control of that's conducive to your progress? All right. Just remember, sometimes it's not just about abandonment. Sometimes it's simply about control. And if I leave first, right? If I exit first, then this person cannot hurt me, but I do hurt myself. If I believe this narrative that these other people don't like me, then I have an easy exit. I don't have to communicate how I feel, right? I don't have to do the vulnerable stuff. Because when we're vulnerable with others, we are not in control of how they respond. Not everybody that you're honest and open with is going to receive that, because they're not honest and open with themselves yet. Right? So just think about that. Check your control tower. Ask yourself, what am I eager to be in control of? What about my life feels out of control? How determined am I to be in control of other people? Right? What does that all look like? All right. And just because things are not going your way doesn't always mean that they're going bad. They're just different. All right. I hope you guys have an amazing week. I hope this is something for you to like really chew on and process and think about, and just embrace. Honestly, we're humans. We kind of, we have 24 hours in a day. We have a damn calendar. We have a work schedule. Like everything kind of has a definitive in a lot of ways. But as you get older, you kind of realize you don't have control over it as much as you think you do. Externally, at least. Right? We don't. We try to create control. We try to create definitives. But a lot of times our frustration comes from the denial that we can't necessarily do that. All right. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. As always, take flight.